welcome to BCC Virtual Racing, and we are, let's have a look, just missed the start by the looks of it. Have I? Oh, apologies for that. I might have, no, something's gone wrong. What has gone wrong? Apologies, 1 second. Something technically seems not to be working on my end. I'm in the wrong place. And that probably means I've missed the start. Let's have a look. Might just have caught it. Right, and here we are in the B pen, 1 minute 6 seconds away. Apologies for that. I forgot to actually join the race myself, which means I couldn't commentate, of course. I'll see if I can edit that bit out a little bit later on. But straight into the B pen, the A's have already gone. This is a 1 minute interval start race for each of the categories. 50 seconds left for the A's. We are tonight in the in Yorkshire again at Harrogate for the Tour of Tewit Well. And I think this is the first time we have been on this course. I'm not sure. I'm sure someone can correct me if I'm wrong. A good field tonight, not as large as the last race on Thursday evening. But we have, I think, 22 riders from BCC in an overall field of about 150 riders. So 20 seconds away from the start. There's Gavin Cullen sitting there, I can see. Civitar as well. I think this is B's and C's mixed up, but I suspect the B's go off first. If I remember, that's the way they do it. Davis is in there. And 5 seconds before the start, let's just grab one of the first riders now as they leave the start pens. And here we are with Lancia on course. First rider I've managed to capture today. This is, as a reminder, the B category. And the course tonight, as I mentioned, Tewit Well. And as the riders get underway, if I can bring up a quick, there we are, just a quick look at the course. It can be categorized by one word, hills really, up and down, up and down, up and down, nothing really flat at all. 21.8 kilometers in total, 10.9 kilometers per lap. And it's 409 meters of climbing, which is fairly significant, about the same as the Box Hill course that we ran last week, but the hills are all shorter and in many cases a little bit steeper as well, but as you can see, fairly consistent, up and down, up and down. Let's see who else I can capture now as the race gets underway. So with Lancia, I've seen Ketley, Campbell, Shannon, Kalik, I just think I saw there as well. Not sure if he's riding tonight. Yes, he is. Just saw him again. Have a quick look through the field. There's Shannon, 310 watts. That's a good start for him. Group seems to be holding fairly much together at this stage. Have a quick look behind. There's a separation there that may be the C's coming up behind. There's Brown. Looks as if he's demoted himself from category A into the B's. And behind him, Civitar at 1 kilometre. He's just passed now. And right next to Tamsin, looks as if Civitar might just be on another cruise round the course. Although at 240 watts, he's not hanging about. Hard to tell at this stage. Just move a little further forward through the B's, just have a quick look, see what's going on. We've got a good field from category A today, 5 riders in total, including Danes from Switzerland. This is a course that probably won't suit Campbell. A very strong rider on the flat, I can attest to that myself. Trying to follow him in the 2-up TT. This is one for Ketley really, and oh, here's Kalik. He's very used to following another rider. Did the TT on the back of Tom, or following Tom all the way through. Probably a rider that's close to being promoted to Category A, and if you think he should be, please leave a comment below and we'll see what can be done. Certainly very keen on taking the wind, I think. Doesn't want to be in front. And mentioning riders in front, there is a rider that can be in the front and is often quite frequently as well. Will Blackham won the race last week for the Category B in a great sprint finish with Campbell. And I'm sure he'll be looking to do the same again today. Good sprint. He's good at the long sprint. He's also not a bad climber as well. So this is going to suit the climbers, should do. Lancia, let's see how he hangs on. And in the A's, before they all split up, let's see what's going on. We have Stoneham has got the polka dot jersey already. In with him tonight. We have Danes, Lisa and Jury. In fact, Lisa looks as if she's got the ladies' polka dot jersey. There she is on screen now at 3.4 kilometres, coming up this 8% ramp. Stoneham will be keen to do well. He was beaten by Tom last week by about, let's have a look, 14 seconds. I mistakenly thought Stoneham had beaten Tom, so apologies for that. We'll see if we can get that right on this occasion. And how are the A's doing? So already a gap is forming. Jury and I can see Tom up ahead, pulling away from Lisa. We'll leave them to do their thing. In fact, 3 seconds. Lisa's dropped off already, rather early in the race for her. She should normally holds on for a good 10-15 minutes. Her strategy though, which is always a very sensible one, will probably drop back now towards the B's. I just saw Blackham on the front. Kalik of course hiding in the slipstream, but not to be outdone. Davis is a master at that, will be aiming for his 3.99 watts per kilo. Lancia is probably getting worried already. These hills are not his thing. Wouldn't want to put him off right now, but nonetheless. But here's a rider where hills are his thing. Prefers the steeper ones, but there are enough here for him to make a difference for him at 320 watts, 3.7 kilometers into the race. So while they get underway, let's move further back in the field. See what's happening. And already, as we can see, let me just check further forward once more just to get some time gaps for all the riders. So this is the front group. Lancia about 14 seconds, 13 seconds further back. Sorry, the timings are updating on the screen as I look at them. Just trying to work out the gap now to Shannon. About 10 seconds, I think. I'll just let the time settle. Brown a further 5 seconds further back at 3.5 kilometers, and 3 seconds behind him is Civita, who will see Brown. In fact, there he is on screen now. Doesn't look too far away, but 3 or 4 seconds on a 6% climb is a reasonable amount to catch up with. And as we move back into the C's, the fast C's are now beginning to overtake the slower B's. And in that mix I can see Tamsin in the B's. No riders from BCC yet. Small field of C's, just Cullen, Nixon and White. There is Tamsin. There is Nixon. Strong rider, and he I think is just on the verge of moving up to B's. A little bit to go yet, but it won't be long. In fact, on the race on Thursday night, let's have a quick look. Nixon, yes, he was actually faster than some of the B's ahead of him, which is quite common when riders are about to move up a category, and perhaps part of the reason why they do move up a category. So there is Nixon. In fact, there's a late entry from Reed. Didn't see him on the start list earlier, so good to get your entries in early, so then I can find you and actually say something about you, unless you don't want me to mention anything at all, of course, which is understandable as well. So Reid is ahead of Nixon by some 9 seconds. In fact, as we look up the hill now, Nixon will be able to see Reid just, I think, on the front of this group. No sign of Cullen. There is White, who I think, let's just see his results from last week, was third in the C's, if I'm not mistaken. Nixon was first, Quigley second, and White third. This is another rider that will shortly move up to category B. But I suspect you have to be careful with riders. Some of them tend to hold back a little bit to stay in that category. There is Cullen at 3.5 kilometers in 270 watts. He is pushing hard. He is pushing very hard, in fact, towards the rear of the C's at the moment, and being caught rather rapidly by Morton, who I think had a win, if I'm not mistaken, in the D's last week. So Cullen 300 watts, heartbeat 149. So he probably, I don't know what his heart rate is like under normal circumstances. I haven't got too much data on him, but I suspect his heart is capable of a little bit more, which suggests he's got a little bit more speed in him. But of course not fully warmed up yet at 7 minutes 50 seconds into the race. But there is Cullen, and 6 seconds further back is Morton. And the race that will be always interesting is the ongoing battle between Telford and Jones, Rob Jones. And Telford certainly is a rider that used to ride in the C's, and I think now takes a slightly easier life in the D's and does quite well out of it. Rob Jones is a good competitor. And a big age gap between the two riders, so Telford really should be getting a move on here. But having said that, these two riders in different ways with different skills, I think on different types of courses, are well matched. And not to be outdone is Lord coming up 5 seconds further back. She's continuing to get stronger and stronger, which is nice to see. And let's now move back to the front of the field, if I can find it. No, not going to go that way. Let's go the other way. Moving up through the C's now, tail end of the B's. And there is Nixon, looks to be on the front of the C's at the moment. Let's have a look. Oh, 21st position it says. My mistake. Reid is in 4th position for the C's, some 10 seconds ahead of Nixon, so riding well. Not sure if he's ridden a hilly course before, so this is, I think this climb is up to 14%, which is fairly significant. This course was parts of it were part of the UCI 2019 World Championship course. I've ridden up this hill. Not very pleasant in real life, never mind virtually. And only 4 seconds ahead, in fact, there he is on screen. Brown, who normally an A rider, has been suffering, I know, some injuries recently, so is perhaps just trying to manage that in the B's. And as we move further forward in the field, Shannon and Civita next to each other at 6 kilometers. In fact, no sooner had I said that than Civita's pulled just 4 seconds ahead. So it looks as if Shannon is not, let's have a look, 165 in the heartbeat. No, his numbers are all there, so he's riding well. Civita's picked up the pace, no doubt about that. As we leave those two riders, 4 seconds, 11 seconds, let's have a look. Try and find the next BCC rider. In fact, it is Lancia, about 15 seconds further ahead. Looks as if Lancia has been struggling on the hills. very honest about his ability on the hills, so he knows what he can do and can't do, but his performances are often variable. He's capable of, I think, more than he thinks sometimes, and is actually, in my view, quite a strong climber. But 5 seconds ahead of him is a strong climber, that's Ketley, but he's by himself. This is not a good sign for Ketley. I don't know where that split's come about. He's now losing about 10 seconds per kilometre being by himself. Really needs to make a choice now to push on, and there's a big gap with the rider ahead of him, 13 seconds further ahead, or move further back, only 3 seconds. In fact, those are the riders visible on screen now, to join Lance here. That was probably the better option, as with a 4 or 5 man group he will pick up speed faster than he will be by himself. So good luck in that. And 45 seconds further ahead is Davis, now with Lisa, who's dropped back through the field to join the bees. There's a tactic she often employs, and there's a good one as well. And as no great surprise in this group as well, we have Campbell, Kalik, still probably following someone, sheltering in the wind. And as one of the younger riders here, he really should be showing his fellow BCC riders the way to do this and be leading out the front. And out the front in 6th position currently, at least, with Cat B, is Blackham. He will occasionally go on the front and pull, but is also sensible enough to take advantage of the shelter from the peloton when he needs to. And he is now 1 minute 9 seconds behind Jury in the A's, and let's just see how she's doing in comparison to the rest of the A group. And she has dropped off and lost the wheel of the leading group of A riders, only with one other rider. So again, a difficult decision coming for her. Bear in mind that the B's, C's, D's and A's, of course, have all started at 1 minute intervals. So in real time, Kalik on the screen at the bottom right at the moment in the rider list is only 14 seconds behind her and is gaining, although there's an extra minute in there just at the moment. And as the riders now come up to lap 1 finish, there is the round this left-hand corner into the centre of Harrogate and the start-finish banner. So this will be the finish on the next lap. We'll just watch Jury come round the corner. So she, in fact, while I have the opportunity, I'll move a little bit further ahead, because there is Danes, who is isolated as well, or at least with one other rider, 25 seconds ahead of Jury, and still leading the way. That's Danes just having gone under the banner there, and Jury should be coming up to that now. Let's have a look. There it is. There is the start-finish banner. So one more lap. Back to Danes, and up the front in the pointy end, Tom. Of course, this ongoing battle he has with Stoneham. Stoneham now is 32 seconds ahead of Tom. He's taking full advantage of the hills. Has he gone too early? He's a rider that likes to take and make an attack, try for a breakaway, but now he finds himself in the uncomfortable position of being by himself. Even with the spotty jersey, that's not going to help him. One rider ahead of him, immediately ahead at 4 seconds. If he can just catch on with that rider, that will make a significant difference. Otherwise, he's going to find Tom and the small group of riders around him is going to catch him. And let's just have a look backwards on the course and see if we can see Tom come around the corner. Not quite yet. So Stoneham at 12.3 kilometres, 17 minutes into the race. He is the second A rider. And this is the first rider that he's trying to catch now. The gap, in fact, is widening between them, although this rider is now easing off the path slightly. Stoneham still has an opportunity. The gap has widened again. 330 watts, heartbeat up to 200 beats per minute. So it's not for want of pushing. I hope he can hold on to this. Tom is moving further back. So the first rider in Cat A has pulled out a little bit more of a gap, but Stoneham and this first rider, Simmons, are pulling away from Tom. Tom won the last battle between these two. So we'll try and come back to them a little bit later on as we move back through the fields. Danes 1 minute further back. Jury has now, let's have a look, is still just with one other rider. Nothing really behind. But then storming up quickly Davis. This is something that often happens in these staggered race starts. The Bs catch up, and probably because, of course, the riders can't see each other, so they're just riding as hard as they possibly can. So Davis, Kalik having another rest by the looks of it. Ketley a further 26 seconds behind the Campbell, Lancia, Blackham, Campbell, who was it? Campbell, Blackham group. And here Ketley is with Lancia. Riding nicely at the moment. 280 watts from Lancia. His FTP is around 315, I think, something of that nature. Just have a quick look actually and see. Lancia, so yes, typically averages around, or can average for 20 minutes around 311 watts. Moving back through the field now, and as you can see, this is constant hills, up and down, up and down. It's not Yorkshire for nothing, known for its hills, and one of the few opportunities to gain a little bit of an advantage or a little bit of a rest from Super Tuck. Civitar at 11.1 kilometers, 18 minutes 47 seconds, has a nice group with him. So I expect he will stay with this group now. And moving back further through the field, Shannon, I just saw. Shannon's about a further 25 seconds behind the group, BCC group in front. And there are one or two riders I haven't yet seen. I will try and find everyone. And continuing to move back through the field, there's Chris Reed in 15th position in category C at 10.7 kilometers, 18 minutes 35 seconds into the race. And a further 30 seconds further back, Tamsin coming up to 10.8 kilometers. In fact, there is Brown and Nixon. Brown is right next to her, so clearly Brown is not riding as hard as he normally does. I suspect, as I said earlier, managing injuries. Nixon has, Nixon is by himself. That's not a good position to be in either. These hills really are making a difference for every competitor. Great opportunity to attack, but Nixon is some 43 seconds behind Brown at this stage. And moving further back through the field. And there is Cullen at 8.8 kilometers, 109 watts. It looks to me as if he's possibly been broken. Heartbeat has gone up since we last saw him by about 10 beats. It is a downhill, of course, and I think it could just be that, the reason we see power at 1.4 watts per kilo, but it's not steep enough for a Super Tuck, or it is steep enough for a Super Tuck, and so you really should be taking advantage of that, building up a bit of speed, then just relaxing. And he's very close to a Super Tuck as well, just another 7 kilometers per hour. The hill is steep enough, needs to be minus 3% or more, so he's really not making best use of this hill. So we'll come back to him a little bit later on, but chasing hard behind him is Morton, who seems to be, let's have a look, another rider by himself. So again, these hills are having a significant impact. He'll be hoping for another win in category D. And let's have a look at Telford at 8.6 kilometers, Jones at 8.5. That will be Telford. He can see not the rider immediately in front of him, but just a couple beyond. And between Telford and Jones is a 17-second gap, with Lord 46 seconds further behind Jones. And this is one of the steeper climbs. Not at the moment at 7%, but it does rise up fairly steeply. So once more, let's move back through the field up towards the front. There's Cullen on the way past. He really needs to put some power down now. Any advantage from the hill is rapidly disappearing at -2%, and he is doing just that, building it up slowly. Heart rate, you can see, has come down, so he has recovered, so he should take advantage of that and push on now. White at 11.8 kilometers, 22 minutes in. And I will move quickly through the field. I don't want to miss. There's Reed on the way past, 12.6. Lots of riders riding in isolation. Been dropped. Shannon with, let's have a look. Shannon at 13.1 kilometers with one other rider. It's better than none. Civita 14.3 kilometers. Well over halfway. And as a reminder, 21.8 is the total distance today. And here is Lancia. Lancia, Ketley, still together. Difficult one to call this. I think if Ketley can just push on in the hills, he may well drop Lancia. In fact, there's Lancia just all of a sudden. Maybe he heard me. That could be a sign that he's weakening on the hills though, and he's standing up just to try and stay with Ketley. That'll be an interesting one to watch. Having a drink now though. And further forward in the field. Kalik. What can we say about Kalik? All by himself now. Clearly that strategy of trying to hide in the wind from in the peloton hasn't worked for him. Looks as if they've ejected him out the back. And these are the riders he's lost. Davis 46 seconds further ahead. Rapidly catching Jury now in the A's. Didn't see Lisa on the way past there. I'm sure she's in there somewhere. But Davis 44 seconds ahead of Kalik. And there is Jury coming back to join Davis. But that must mean that Campbell and Blackham are further ahead than Davis. Yes, they are indeed, about 5 seconds at this stage. So Campbell riding exceptionally well for a large rider on this hilly course. I must say personally, not a great surprise. He's a strong rider in all circumstances. And I think has the drive and commitment to push hard when many others wouldn't. At 420 watts there's evidence of that. Heartbeat 155, 156, that's high for him. 8 seconds further up though is Blackham, and looks as if Blackham's driving hard to catch up with the A's in front of him, and I suspect he will do that. In fact, he is doing that just now as he attaches himself onto the back of the group. He's now with Rob Daines and has gone past Rob Daines. Maybe Blackham fancies himself back in the A's. Well, if he keeps this sort of performance up, he'll soon find himself there. But there is Blackham pulling away from Daines, in fact. On the front, it's a slight downhill, not quite enough for a super tuck. And that's 18.2 kilometers. Let's have a look up the front. Stoneham is by himself, but he's 1 minute 24 ahead of Tom. I'm not getting an update from Zwift as to where he is. Second position, so he's 1 minute 9 seconds away from the category A leader. He's not going to close that gap in this time, so they have, let's have a look, just 1.5 kilometers left. So I will stay with the front runners now so as not to miss the finish, which I often do, so apologies for that. So the question is, can this rider, Matt Tom, 166 beats in the heart, 275 watts. Can he close the gap to Stoneham? It would be a very tall order indeed, as Stoneham is 51 seconds ahead. It's not impossible, but at 260, 270 watts, I think extremely unlikely. Unless Stoneham blows up, he has a tendency sometimes to push really hard. Sometimes it works, but other times it doesn't. But I think on this occasion, it looks as if Stoneham is going to get a silver medal. In fact, he's just disappeared off my screen. Where's he gone? Oh, that's rather strange. No sooner had I said that than Stoneham vanished. I hope technically everything's okay. Oh, there he is. Let's see if we could stay on him now until the finish. So 1 kilometre left for Stoneham. No riders behind or in front. Just himself to race for. Holding for him a reasonable 5.5 watts per kilo. Heartbeat still way up there at 197, 196. That's a function of age as well as the effort he's making, of course. I think many of the rest of us would be dead at that kind of heart rate, but not for this young man. So not taking advantage of a super tuck. He's just on the limit now to be able to do that. No real need, I suppose. 20.4 kilometers. 400 meters to go, I think. Should be a left-hand turn up ahead, then the finish will come into view. And I will move very quickly back to Tom. Otherwise, if I have to hunt through all the riders to find him again, I'll never will. So it looks like a fantastic ride from Stoneham. Well done to him. So this is 1 for Stoneham and a second place for Tom, and this is second place overall in the A's for Stoneham. So a great ride, not just within the club, but for all riders. And where has Tom disappeared to? It looks as if I might miss him again unless he appears on the rider list about now. And we'll leave Stoneham now because I'm just concerned they won't be able to pick up Tom. There he is. I saw him briefly, disappeared again. So it is Stoneham across the line first, and oh, someone on a mountain bike. Well, I'm not sure if that's embarrassing for Tom or not, but he's being drafted by someone on a mountain bike. That's 7.1 watts per kilo, so pushing hard. Stoneham looks as if he's just crossed the finish line. As Tom comes round this corner, he will have the finish line in sight, and then I will move back to Blackham. So we'll leave Tom just here. Might just wait to see if he does a sprint at all. No, we'll move back now. So Blackham is the next rider. Looks to be leading, as far as I can tell, category B. Yes, he is. No riders, as you can see in this overhead shot, behind or in front, with a small group, including Danes. But Blackham is the first BCC rider. Now, who's going to win this sprint? Is it going to be Blackham or Danes? I've got my money on Blackham. I may have to just click to another rider before I lose them. Let's have a quick look, see what's going on. Power up, very useful power ups coming out there. Rob Danes 7.5 watts per kilo, Blackham at 11.1. Blackham's pulled ahead. Danes responding at 15 watts per kilo, just about, and it looks to be Danes that's got there. Well done to Danes. I don't think Blackham expected that. Blackham maybe went a tiny bit early, but Danes had that power. There is Jury winding it up now. And she's pushing hard. 10.2 watts per kilo. She crosses the finish line and looks as if Campbell is the next rider. So second category B rider. by himself, and he's already, I'm going to award him now the I Beat Barry t-shirt. There's no way at all, unless there's a mechanical, electronic or otherwise, that he's going to be caught by Davis. Davis will know now that he can't, in fact we can see it already. In fact, look at that, Campbell's just going for it. No one in sight, front or behind, but he's still determined to push over the line. And Davis already knows he can't beat Campbell, so look, he's cruising at 2.2 watts per kilo. That's of course to bring his average down to under 4 watts per kilo, as many of you I'm sure know. A frequent tactic on his behalf. But it's a little embarrassing, I think, to be a rider of his capability, to be riding at 2.4 watts per kilo. And here's another rider that should be a little bit embarrassed, Kalik. A reasonable power output, 4.7, 4.6. I did that earlier in the TT, Kalik. You know, you could just put the pedal down a little bit harder. Especially with your age, even though the grey beard doesn't fool any of us. But there is Kalik. Nonetheless, a good ride for him, despite the commentary. 21.2 kilometres, 33 minutes, 30 seconds, about another 30-40 seconds to go before he crosses the line. And actually sneaking up behind him is this huge group, which I hadn't spotted, including Ketley. So Ketley has, as I expected earlier, pulled away from Lancia. Lancia looks to have suffered a little bit in the hills, but for a big rider he's done exceptionally well. Is Ketley going to wind it up? Oh, they're going to catch. Are they going to catch Kalik? That would be a great result. I would pay for that finish. Not quite, but and there is Lancia now coming up for the last corner of his race. He'll be pleased that this one's over. Not far behind, maybe 30 seconds behind, I think. Have to look at the times. He has a good sprint on him, but now's the time to go. 10.4 watts, instant power there almost. 10.1, 12 watts per kilo from Lancia. He's pushing ahead, he's pulled ahead in fact. So a great final sprint for him. And it looks to be next on course Civita. 19.5 kilometres. So we'll watch a few more riders. So Civita currently 32nd out of 57 in category B. And we've seen most of the fast riders finish already. I don't think there is anyone ahead of him. I'll just have a quick check. No, there is not. So back with Civita now. This long straight downhill section, which was used in the UCI World Championships, but in the opposite direction. So about 1800 metres to go, and taking advantage of the super tuck, always a good move. Can't win the race, but can save himself a little bit of energy for the sprint finish. He's making good use of that. And I've just seen on screen now, Shannon is a further 58 seconds further back, and I'm just looking at the race from last week. Shannon, see how he compared with Civita. So about the same time gap as last time, roughly, between these two riders. So on a relative basis, it looks as if they've both performed well. Still in super tuck, or at least a rider. Yes, Civita's taking advantage of the super tuck. And someone's just overtaken him in super tuck as well. And they are coming up now to the final left-hand bend of this course. And at this point, no other BCC riders around Civita. As he turns the corner, the finish will come into sight now. And there it is. I will let Civitar do his thing. 10 watts per kilo, 11, 12. Good kick in him, he's good push to the finish. But I'll move back quickly, otherwise I'll miss Shannon now, taking advantage of the super tuck. And less than a kilometre to go for him. And it looks as if Reed in the seas is only, it's moving around a bit, 30 seconds behind. Pushing quite hard though. And it looks as if Reed's just gone into a super tuck as well. Either that or he's fallen off. Now the watts are back on again. And as Shannon comes round the final left-hand bend, I'll move further back in the field, as there are no other BCC riders that are going to bother Shannon. And there is Reed coming up to the same corner. Looks to have been a good ride for him, I think. I'm not sure if he raced on Thursday. Let's have a quick look. Can't see him. So hasn't been riding for too long, or racing for too long I should say, and is a big rider as well, so he looks to have done quite well on this. 11th out of 56 riders in the seas at the moment. And moving further back in the field now, let's see if we can find the next BCC rider. Looks to be Tamsin, 19.7 kilometres. Still by herself. One rider just behind, I think. There is that rider. And will she take advantage of the super tuck? Bit of a push here will get you up to 58 kilometers per hour and you can relax. There is no need to pedal. But no, she's not going to do it. And the slope begins to flatten off fairly quickly. Just stop pedaling, that's all you need to do. And you will catch that rider in front of you with no extra effort. In fact, she goes into super tuck. Excellent, good choice. Look at this, she's gaining on the rider and not pedaling at all. That's what it's all about. Just gives that minute or so to recover from. You need to keep an eye on the gradient and the speed, so as soon as it drops and the rider, as soon as it drops below minus 3%, or above in this case, below, sorry, and the speed drops below 58, the rider will sit back up again, which is an indication to the rider it's time to pedal. But it's good to anticipate that and start pedaling just before it happens. But she has taken advantage of that and moves ahead of this rider, Harrogate. And she will now come up to the last corner, and I will leave her on this bend. In fact, she's not giving up actually. It's nice to see. 4.3 watts per kilo, heartbeat 162, 163. And it looks as if these two are going to battle it out to the finish line. Let's just see what happens for a few seconds. Finishes in sight now. Is Tamsin going to beat Harrogate? Harrogate's tucked in behind. I think Tamsin's got this. Just be careful of the sprint. She's up at 4.3 watts per kilo. He's going for it, and he's put in that little spurt just at the very end. That's always the danger. And here comes Nixon now for his push towards the finish line. Nixon won category C on Thursday night's race, so let him cross the line and pop back in the field. Next rider, there's Brown. Oh, dearie me. Brown had stopped pedalling there. Come on, Brown. You can make it to the finish. Just roll. You can't let Gavin Cullen catch you up. He's only 35 seconds further back, and at the speed you're going, I think he's going to do just that. Looks as if Brown is just trying to take advantage of every slope here and not pedal. This injury must be causing real problems, but remarkably he's still pulling away from Cullen. Not sure what Cullen's up to. Must be coming up a hill. So Brown is trying to coax his bike and body into the downhill. Here it is. He has 2 kilometers to go. If Cullen was watching, he could take advantage of this and catch him. Not impossible at this kind of rate. You could see Brown's heart rates come down to 116, so he is cruising now, just turning enough to keep the pedals going. He's really seeking to take advantage of this downhill, there's no question of that, and I can't blame him if he's suffering. But Cullen is getting further and further away. So we'll follow Brown at least to the finish. Make sure he does cross the finish. This is quite a long, it's almost 2 kilometers downhill, this road. Not very steep, but it's a welcome relief from all the climbs. In fact, there is just ahead. I'll pop ahead, sorry. White just crossed the finish line by the looks of it, so missed him. Now I've lost Brown. Should reappear on the screen with a bit of luck, but there we are with Telford anyway, who is at 16.5 kilometers. I'm not sure what's going on here. Seem to have lost Shannon. These are all the riders that have stopped. Maybe if I just pop back to me on the field, get a relist here. There is Cullen. There is Brown. Sorry about that, sometimes a bit difficult. So it looks as if Cullen hasn't taken advantage of it. Brown is going to finish this race. Still trying not to pedal by the looks of it, just enough to keep his bike going. He will undoubtedly be relieved to see that finish banner ahead of him. Someone's just given him a thumbs up there. Right on, well deserved. Come on, keep going. Let's get just a little bit of freewheeling. Got to get across that finish line. He's certainly not going to stop now. And there is Brown crossing the line in 44.40. Now here we have Cullen. So it looks as if he has ridden a large part of this race by himself, has become fairly isolated, in 40th position out of 56 at the moment. About 800 metres left to go for him. He'll be relieved to see the finish, not pushing overly hard at the moment, certainly well within his category C. But do bear in mind, this is a rider that probably hasn't experienced a very hilly course like this. He has only recently been promoted to the C's. I think this may be his second or third race, I think perhaps in the C's, so has done very well. And we'll let him cross the line there and find our final riders on course. We should have some B riders still out on the field, unless they were only doing 2 laps. I didn't check that. So it could well be, in fact I think that might be what has happened. See Cullen cross the line. So as the riders now finish their cool down, in fact there is Telford, he's still on. No, they're still going. They were so far back at that, I thought they were actually doing 2 laps, which sometimes happens. So looks as if Telford is not particularly comfortable at this stage. 1.8 watts per kilo at 16.7 kilometers out. But the question is, where are the other D riders? And I don't know is the answer. A quick flick through here. These are all the riders now that have come to a rest or are cooling down. There's Cullen still going. So I'm not quite sure what happened in the D's. Telford's still on course, but no sign of Rob Jones or Carmel Lord. I'm hoping that they have finished. So thank you all for watching. Next race is on Thursday evening. Don't forget, if you feel Irfan should be promoted to Category A, either by numbers or just because we want him to, please leave a comment, and thank you for watching. See you all on Wednesday.